Okay, let's go ahead and we'll bow in.
Okay.
Take a moment to align ourselves. Onegaishimasu. Let's start with some heaven and earth breathing, drawing from the earth and reaching up to the heavens and opening. And as we do this, because part of the topic is joyful this evening, what if there was a little more cheerfulness or joyfulness as we reach down and reach up and reach out? And then let's work with our containment breath. And then moving from the universe inside of our abdomen, as the universe begins to turn, the ki flows out through our arms and fingertips. We could think of the ki as light, or honey or liquid, and where is it touching the walls? Maybe flowing beyond. And the ki comes up from the earth, and it comes from the sky, and it comes from the universe inside our abdomen. And then let's bring that to a close and just stand in that sensation for a moment, sensing the ki flowing around us and through us. And let's stretch our sides a little bit. And all the way around. And reversing. All right, let's stretch out our low back, dropping in the shoulder. Other side. Again. Okay. And now circles of the hips. In both ways. And the knees. Both ways. Stretching the backs. And you get comfortable squatting in front. And again. Okay. And warm-ups, let's start with Aikido. Elizabeth is there, wonderful. Hi. And let's settle down, lengthen up strong hips and open our hearts. And invite a little bit of cheerfulness or joyfulness, because why not? Other side. And softening around the stretch. And Karagaish. keeping a lightness. Other side. And then Nikio. Taking the weight out of our feet, out of our legs. And the other side. Nice. Inside the arms. And let's shake them out and over our heads. You shake them and let them fall. And again. And let them fall. And big circles with the arms. And shoulders. And let's work our core a little bit using our elbows. In both ways. Okay. Nice light Hamni, weight out of the feet, finding the triangle, extending way out to a point, and opening our backs and inviting Aiki spirit to flow through us as we go together and back, together and back. Imagining that our arms are hollow, our fingers are hollow, and the ki could be like light flowing through us. And the ki is coming from the sky and from the earth and from all around. And we organize it and focus a triangle. Finding the point we're extending way out. Two more. Okay, and let's just stand in that for a moment. Remember keeping the weight out of our feet, out of our legs. A sense of the triangle all around us, focusing, organizing the space. And some 2 steps. 1, 2, 1. As we turn, sensing the space around us, filled with ki and moving us with ease. And we have the universe inside our abdomen, and it can connect to the universe all around. We could say, I am the universe and the universe is in me. And let it move us. Two more. And then let's turn and stay and just stand in it for a moment. See if we can sense the ki flowing around us and through us, the lightness, sense of buoyancy. Let's do a little rowing. We'll do the sword blade. So if you want to get your sword blade charged up a little bit, you can do that. And just to get that sensation, especially closer to the elbow where sometimes it's vague. And remember, as we do this, we want to stand in such a way where we're not weighting our feet or our legs. The universe is in our abdomen and it expands out all around us. and we extend out to the point and gather back. Find a point way out you're extending to from your whole sword blade. Sense of relaxation. A sense that something else is moving us, and we go along with it. And we can be cheerful about it. We can enjoy the sense of lightness and relaxation and the power. Two more. Okay, let's reach up. Take some ki from the heavens. Focus into our abdomen. And vibrating the heart point as it gets smaller and smaller, becomes tiny, and then it opens out into the universe inside our abdomen. And that universe keeps expanding. And stop for a moment and see if you can continue the sense of vibration. And then other side, change harmony, and the same extending, gathering back. Whole sword blade is charged with ki and light, and it extends out. Take the weight out of our feet, out of our legs. What moves us? And what if we could perceive a little more joy, a little more cheerfulness? Extending way out, gathering back. Light and relaxed. Two more. Okay, and one more time. Reaching up. Taking some ki from the heaven. Focusing it into our heart point and vibrating it. And imagine it gets smaller and smaller until it opens out into the universe, vibrating in our abdomen, expanding. And then let's stop for a moment. See if you can sense the vibration continuing. Okay. So nice to see you all, and especially Elizabeth, it's been a while. So I thought I'd circle around to joyful perseverance because we haven't really focused particularly on that for a little while. And how do we extend it? How do we radiate it? How do we keep it up? I'm just going to read a few things and we'll open for discussion. Scientific evidence suggests that being happy may have major benefits for your health. For starters, being happy promotes a healthy lifestyle. It may also help combat stress, boost your immune system, protect your heart, and reduce pain. What's more, it may even increase your life expectancy. I don't know why I think that's humorous, but I do. So extending joyful perseverance. So I circle back to some of the suggestions from the Ki Society. Ki is extending. I like this one. You are strong enough to be relaxed. You are strong enough to be relaxed. Move freely and easily. I think those are connected. You're strong enough to be relaxed, move freely and easily. Have a mind like a mirror. And that brings to mind Bruce Lee, who's one of my heroes too, who talked about the reflecting quality of the attacker. And then based on that, I'm going to read a quote that I've been really chewing on from my teacher, Trungpa Rinpoche, that's not 100% appropriate, but I think it has something to do with it, and we'll see what your thoughts are. It seems that if you are purely looking for answers, then you don't perceive anything. In the proper use of intellect, you don't look for answers, you just see. You just take notes in your mind. And even then, you don't have the goal of collecting information. You just relate to what is there in an expression of intelligence. That way, your intelligence can't be conned by extraneous suggestions. Rather, you have sharpened your intellect and you can relate directly with what is happening. So that a little bit connected to have a mind like a mirror for me. It's just relating directly to what's there rather than trying to manipulate it or do something with it or create something with it, just to be directly with that. And somehow, I believe that that leads to real power. And of course, we could unpack what I mean by real power, but I'm just going to stop there and open it up and see if any of you have any thoughts on any of that, or anything else for that matter. But Ula, good.
Yeah, well, I think it kind of relates. You know how you talk about just trying to be present and look at what's there. And a lot of times I'm looking at it because let's say I'll give you an example. There was a painter that a couple of his paintings, I was very struck by them. And yet I couldn't get my head around what he was trying to do. And he's still alive. He's alive, and he's in a lot of collections. And yet I looked at the work and I thought, why is this guy so respected? And I even bought one of his books, and then I just put it away. And so now it's 2 years later. I just kind of put it, I didn't want to judge it too much. I just put it away and I thought, okay, it's not relevant to what I'm doing. And now all of a sudden I had a breakthrough on a painting, and it just all clicked. And then I understood, and then it got me all excited. And now it's just opening up a whole new world of color theory study for me. And it's just amazing. But in the moment, all I could do was look at it and just sort of take it in, but I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand it at the time. And I just had to put it away, but then it resurfaced. Just, I don't know how, but it did. And I find that happens more often than not, you know.
Well, I want to commend you for being able to suspend your judgment and, you know, like he said, just relate directly to what's happening rather than very frequently, if someone doesn't resonate with something, there tends to be judgment. Like, that's not good, or I don't like it, or this or that or the other. So I just want to commend you for that. And I think in Aikido too, I'm certainly, you know, I tend to judge, and I have to really work with myself, not to judge, why is that person being so stubborn? Why are they planting? Why aren't they coming along? Kind of thing, rather than, oh, look, that's happening. That's just what's happening.
Well, and I think what helped, I mean, I'm not perfect. I mean, I do make judgments about stuff that I'm not even attracted to. But in this case, there was something there, but I couldn't figure out what it was. So I had to just let it go for a while. And more often than not, I guess more with the painting and stuff, that happens more often than maybe out in the real world, or I'm more conscious of it in the painting world than out in the real world about stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, that happens with some writer with, certain books that I read, and I just put them down, and then I'll pick them up 2 years later, and all of a sudden it'll be okay. I'll like it. So I'm sure you guys have all had the same experience in certain aspects with that.
So I've had similar experience. Yes. Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Any thoughts on you're strong enough to be relaxed, move freely and easily, have a mind like a mirror, being cheerful, promotes good health and well-being?
I have something that I've been practicing, and the question is noticing something that I have difficulty accepting. So first I notice that kind of judgment resistance, and then the question is, what do I encounter inside when I relax the tendency to reject? And what I'm finding over and over again, that when I notice, I don't like it, go inside, relax that tendency to reject. And what I typically find is joy.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that just felt really relevant for tonight, and relevant to what Ula was sharing as well.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just like, oh, well, what else is here? And this like open curiosity, like, oh, I wonder what else is going on besides my
Yeah.
And so I'm able to and then I think part of the joy is just the letting go of the which is, I'm thinking that's like the weight, right? This has a lot of weight, don't like.
Yes, it does.
And that relaxes, and there's a whew that arises for me.
Nice. Yeah, for me, it triggers the big trigger is I want it to be different than it is. I want the person to behave differently or the situation to be different. And that's the weight. And then I'm like, oh, look at me. I want it to be different. That's funny. Because obviously it can't be different. It's what it is. But if I can wake up and notice that I want it to be different, often I can get the smile or the humor of it's so funny that I want it to be different, because it's just complete dead end, goes nowhere. Thanks, Michelle. Any other thoughts?
I have thoughts on the surprising when you look at what's really here. I was in between jobs last week, and those were huge movement, leaving a community, starting another community. And I took a couple of days out and found this Franciscan nun in Sacramento who was doing spiritual direction. I said, let me go talk to her. I don't even know how I got to her. And so I'm talking to her, and I'm running my stories, and I notice I'm just running my stories, and nothing really happens. And then we're talking about her being a Franciscan nun in suburbia, Sacramento. And I said, so how do you live? What do you guys do? And suddenly she says, well, every Monday we come together with 8 nuns, and we reflect on where we have encountered the mystery in the week before. And I'm like, you do what? And I was like, oh my God, what a practice, right? And suddenly I realized I'm not here to talk, I'm here to really listen and to notice other people and what other people are saying. But it was such a surprise, because I was totally like, oh, now that's a practice, to reflect every week on where you encounter the mystery. Isn't that a practice?
That's a wonderful practice.
I know. And I was so surprised, but I also thought, oh, I wasn't here to talk. I was here to listen. Sometimes you don't know.
Yes, and probably she needed to hear you talk a little bit before she could share, so you could listen. So I'm imagining that it was all meant to be. And I love the idea of people getting together specifically to share the way they encounter the mystery, because I've always said for many, many years, I think life should be lived with half mastery and half mystery. And of course, some people go, well, it should be 51% mystery and so on. But and then COVID hit and we were in about 80% mystery for a while. But I think it's wonderful, Elizabeth. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. Anything else popping up? So I'm going to go back to the one that's jumping out at me. You are strong enough to be relaxed. Now, first of all, that entails we have a sense of what relaxation is, which we've discussed before, is a mystery. Because Koichi Tohei said that Oishiba Sensei all he could do is relax, but then he equated relaxation with enlightenment. So the question is, what is relaxation, or how do we cultivate it? And what is it? What is our sense of it? Which is, it's kind of a mystery, because it's that, when are we just kind of collapsing and being too loose, and when are we tight, too tight? And what, you are strong enough to be relaxed, and then the implication is that relaxation is, well, as Tohei Sensei said, enlightenment, but it's an aspect of power, and that we can be more effective when we're relaxed. So having said that, anyone have any thoughts on what relaxation sort of is? We touched on this last week a little bit, and how you move toward that state.
I can just share a little bit that I wrote to you.
Yeah, please share that.
That's the two aspects. There's the like emptiness and clarity. And so to me, when it's relaxed, it's being in a state of clarity at the same time. So it's not a relax that creates dullness, but it's a relax that there's still clarity there, awareness, presence. And I know that a long time ago I read some stuff about state of arousal, and so it's having that state of arousal where you're not hypervigilant, but you're also not dulled. So it's that just right.
Goldilocks syndrome. Anyone else? What helps you come closer to an experience of what you might call relaxation?
I think of when I'm floating in the river, and I'm always in total amazement that I can float completely, right? My body is just like a leaf. And that is my my strongest experience of relaxation. And it's a feeling of being completely embedded in the universe, supported by the space. And that I can trust that and let go.
Beautiful.
Sensei,
And that if I don't let go, then I start sinking. So it's good feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you collapse in the water, you definitely sink, right?
Yeah.
There has to be a little bit of paying attention. And I find that paying attention to my posture, it took time for me to realize this, that there was like a strengthening of the posture that I had to constantly work on. And then it really shows up when I see sort of like an auditorium full of people, and almost everybody is kind of collapsed back in the seats, right? But I find myself sitting on the edge of the seat, and I can sit that way for a very long time without any sort of, feeling of pain, because it's the way I sit when I sit meditating, right? But there's it's not firing muscles like collapsing. It's firing those extensor muscles of the back and a posterior chain.
Yeah. I think you're right. Posture is a huge piece. So, so let's play with, so this one for me triggers the closest to relaxation. It's that one that Toi Sensei did. But to set it up, when we stand, we first want to instruct ourselves. And Elizabeth, we've been working on this for some weeks. And the instruction was keep the weight out of your body, and more specifically, take the weight out of your feet and keep the weight out of your legs. I know, interesting. So where do you put it? And one of the things he was suggesting is you're putting it in the universe that's in your abdomen, but we could also put it in the space. So if we stand for just a minute and we do that, whatever that is, so that we're not heavy in our body. And then this little movement where you're touching your fingers together, what this does is it usually drains extraneous tension out of the neck and shoulders and chest, and keeping it out of the feet. And then we'll just hold for a moment once we've touched the fingers. And then the question is, what is the gesture that represents extending joyful perseverance? And then just let your intuition or the mystery take you into a movement. Whatever it is for you. And then when you go into that movement, was there any extraneous tension that happened? And then do it again. Let's do it about 4 or 5 times on your own. So you do this for a little while to get that feeling of lightness in the body and relaxation in the upper body, and then you stop, and then you ask your body or your being the question, what is the movement that represents extending joyful perseverance? And then you do that movement. And if you do it, notice if you stand in it, if it's relaxed and light and feels powerful, or there's something else that happens. So let's do that a few times. Maybe the movement will repeat itself. Maybe you'll have different movements. I don't know the answer to that. We'll play with it for a minute and we'll check back in. Remember, take the weight out of your body first. And the movement with the hands. And then you ask the question. And do one more, or finish the one you're on if you just started one. Okay, let's check in. So what did you notice? Did it help to set you up by doing the take your weight out of the body and do that?
I do know, Sensei, that in class I've been using that at times before, like before doing a technique in teaching, right? And having the class, everybody do that. And it's interesting to see that people are able to access a different sort of level of power, let's say a softer level of power. And there's something about that motion, that movement, and de-weighting yourself that resonates really well. But I'm still exploring it. And there's some mystery around it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a whole life exploration. I don't think but one of the things that was interesting for me is that when I stop in this place and I feel this sort of weightlessness, and then it's interesting, as soon as I do a movement, like there gets to be, or even if it's just like this, all of a sudden there's more density in my body. Like I'm not yet able to take this state of weightlessness and lightness and relaxation and have it be the same here. Because as soon as I do that, I'm firing these extra muscles, and the muscles speak to it. But if I'm out here and then I feel that, I can, a couple of times I was able to, can I get a little bit weightless in this place? So going from here to here, there's a that happens. And then I could somehow drop that and de-weight the shoulders. So how do we move? Let's say we have Michelle's floating in the river, or for me, that sense of being able to be in that moment. What helps us take it into an activity? And of course, on the mat, we're interested in the activity in the face of low-grade threat. What would help us continue this state when we were in a place of working with a dynamic interaction?
Well, for me, it is a lot the flow that you often invoke for us, where the energy is coming behind me and I'm part of this flow, that I'm being moved. And that I access a lot. It helps me a lot in my daily life.
Yeah. I noticed if I paid attention to the sense that my arms were being pushed up from underneath, it was different than lifting them from the shoulders. Like if we're here and we lift our arms, there's a feeling of lifting from the shoulders. If I'm here and I try to sense that my arms are being pushed from underneath. So there's that sense of something around me that's actually making me move, rather than I'm moving from inside my skin. I'm moving from the space around me, then I can sustain it a little bit more.
In this practice, where I was more in one location rather than moving through my day, I was feeling the energy more coming from below and lifting. Whereas usually in my day, I'm feeling it from behind, carrying me. But it was very predominantly coming up from below, and whew.
Yeah, and we want to keep thinking about it, talking about it, relating with it, so that we can connect to it when we're in a more dynamic situation, or an Aikido low-grade threat, or something that's disturbing. Like we want to be able to connect with it then. So one way to do that is what we're doing now, is getting a language for it, getting a sense of it, getting a feeling, discussing it, so it starts to become very sort of familiar, instead of this kind of rare thing, I relaxed for a minute. How can we make it more, more familiar, more common in our experience?
Thank you, Sensei. I think the collective sharing generates a field energy that is also so supportive. So I really appreciate this way in which you're
Nice.
calling us together.
So I'm going to, just one more that I said, I'm going to ask for your thoughts on that, and we'll see if a movement or exercise comes out of it. Have a mind like a mirror. So for anybody, what does that evoke for you when we have that suggestion? Have a mind like a mirror.
I think in some ways it points to the hypocrisy in myself. So if I'm having judgment of others, or I'm thinking about this person in this way, I really have to think about it from the standpoint of how does that show up in my life, and how do I do that to others?
Mm.
So it's maybe like it's pointing to my own, like maybe my own insecurities, something that I'm judging about, that I'm not comfortable with about myself.
And that person is mirroring it to you.
That person
Yes.
is doing it to me,
Yeah.
and I'm judging that, but it's the feelings, the thoughts and feelings within me.
Yeah, that's good self-awareness, Greg. I appreciate your being so transparent about that. Anyone else? Mind like a mirror. If your mind was like a mirror.
Some things that came to mind is the mirror. It's all receptive because it's all just coming in and just showing what's there. There's no judgment. There's no anything. It's kind of accepting in a way too. It's equanimous about whatever it is. So it's just receiving the images and they're appearing in the mirror without anything added to it.
Nice. So let's just do one more quick exercise, which is kind of based around this, which is instead of just saying mind, in this case, we'll say being, and you get to do a movement, any kind of movement. What does your movement want to reflect in this moment? So if our being is more like a mirror, it wants to reflect something, a little bit what you were pointing to. So how does it want to reflect? How does it want to show up? What mudra or form does it want to take? And then just see what happens. So what we're trying to do, of course, is not activate from inside ourselves, but from something bigger, something more universal around us. And as always, let's start by just taking the weight out of our body and getting that moment of relaxation. And then saying, okay, so what does my being want to reflect? What shape, what movement, what form does my being want to reflect in this moment? And then do that 3 times. So it might be 3 different ones or 3 the same. And finish the one you're on or do one more. Okay. So did anything show up that you're being wanted to mirror in the moment? I got some heaven and earth. It was really interesting to be light and stand in the heaven and earth a bit. And just, there's something heaven and earth wanted me to show up in that.
The first movement was quite, I would say, heavy and down. And what I experienced was I was able to do it 5 times, and I just got increasingly lighter and transparent and porous until the last time I was practically floating. So that was a fascinating progression.
Yeah, very nice. I'm all for the floaty thing, the weightlessness.
Yeah, thanks to my being for revealing that to me. and the, to ask the question, right? Rather than having my personality run the show. What a relief.
Yeah. Kind of invite the mystery to speak to us, hopefully.
I had the similar experience as Michelle. It was, and I've had this before. It's just it's a big pink bubble, and it's porous if I want it to be, and it can be smaller. It can be, I can move it in and out, and I have to say that the lightness part is new because I've spent the most of my life trying to be grounded. It's a comfort thing. It's like eating comfort food. For me, it's true. It's a comfort thing. But I am more comfortable being lighter now. It's as if all the work we've done, there's been a shift internally that it's now okay to be lighter and still feel like I can do the technique. I have, like, the strength is there. I don't, but I still default, if I'm not familiar with the technique that they're teaching, like in Aikido, I will default back to hard. And before I know it, like Kirk Sensei will say, you need to relax, chill. And I'll go, oh, okay. So it's great to have those reminders, because I can be back in that moment when I'm lost and trying to figure out the technique. Everything goes back to the default, comfort, grounded, and I laugh because it's just so funny. It happens just like in an instant. And then there I am, and then I have to laugh. And I'm so glad that he calls me on it, because I need that. Someone has to, do you know, like they talk about in meditation, when the leader would walk around and whack you with a stick to wake you up? It's just like, that's what I need, is the whack or the reminder,
That reminds me of my favorite story about the Buddha. After he got his enlightenment, people and beings came to him and they said, what are you? Are you a god? Are you an angel? Are you the devil? And the Buddha said, I'm awake.
I'm a what?
I'm awake.
Oh, I'm awake.
They call him the awakened one. He woke up, stopped being spaced out. Yeah. So we do need the reminder. And, we should be also, I'm glad we laugh rather than be hard on ourselves, because if you think of how many millions of times we've grounded and gotten heavy and tightened up, the percentage is stronger than lightening up. And so we just keep working on it so we can start to change the baseline. And we don't have to stay in that heavy place because it's hard on our bodies and it's definitely hard on my spirit to be heavy and tight. It's less familiar now than it used to be because I've become more familiar with the lightness. But I hear you, that's generally the survival default, is tighten up.
Yeah, we don't need to be hedgehogs, all the time.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that show up for you in any way that was interesting in terms of the mystery, giving you a suggestion?
I was playing with the movement where usually we extend our arms and our hands, right, in the movement.
Yeah.
And I was playing with extending my arms, but softening my hand. And what happened was that I got more relaxed and greater receptivity in my body. So instead of my energy going out of my hands and out of my eyes, my eyes softened and it was great. It's almost like when you do that sword exercise where you lower your sword so the other person can come in. It's that feel of like, oh, I can lower. There's something that I can lower and I see more of what's coming at me.
Nice. So not as much of a defense or a...
Right. Yeah, or not so much on guard or I'm ready to go, or it's like, oh, that's actually a nice movement to have my hands relaxed.
I like it.
Anyway.
I like it very much. Yeah, if we can be less on guard and more connected. Okay, well, we could get our book hands and do our mind, body, spirit unification exercise by speaking our intention with making our cuts. All right, so let's just take a moment and taking our both hands out. And then let's point our both hands up toward the sky. Take the weight out of our legs and body, be light and stir the cosmic soup. And invite wisdom traditions from all times, all places, and all eons to come and support our intentions for good in the world. And then lightning rod the heaven and bringing it into us. Oh. And taking a nice kamai. And let's take the weight out of our feet, out of our legs. Hold the boken lightly and see if you can just steady the tip. And have a sense that we're being supported all around us. And we have the universe inside of our abdomen and it extends out into the world. And we can say that the universe is all around us. And now let's say our declaration out loud and we'll send it out into the world. Ready, and I wish to convey to people more joyful perseverance. And again, I wish to bring to the world more joyful perseverance. Again, I wish to bring to the world more joyful perseverance. Cut again. And now kiai. Hi! Standing in it for a moment, sensing the lightness, the power, our intention going out into the world, letting ourselves be surrounded by light universal energy. Let's say our intention again, ready, and I wish to bring more joyful perseverance to the world. Send it out. I wish to bring more joyful perseverance to the world. Send it out. I wish to bring more joyful perseverance to the world. Cut again. And a big kiai. Hi! And let's do one last one. Ready, and I wish to bring more joyful perseverance to the world. I wish to bring more joyful perseverance to the world. I wish to bring more joyful perseverance to the world. Cut, and again, And now Kiai, hi! Standing in it for a moment. And let's just take a couple of minutes and let's do our figure 8 with the bokken, holding it lightly, extending the tip, and as we strike, bring the leg, brings the tip down. See if you can let the bokken be relaxed in your hands, keeping the situation light, focused. Ki going out the tip of your bokken, using your leg to drop the bokken tip. Feeling the relaxation, the flow. 2 more. And then just standing in it for a moment. The weight is light around us, not in our body. Extending to the tip. Nice. Let's put our bokkens to the side. Bowing them out. And let's end with a little heaven and earth breathing. Having that sense of lightness, having that sense of the universe inside of us, expanding all around us. And then let's dip down, take a breath from the earth and bring it up. Reaching for the stars and opening. You can be light and relaxed and powerful. Two more. And now let's just stand in it for a moment. See if we can radiate some positive, joyful perseverance out into the world. Imagine that that energy flows all around the planet Earth, touching all the beings. And then a moment of appreciation for our friends and training partners, for our community, for the global Aikido community, for our teachers and mentors, for O Sensei's vision, and for our own hearts. Let's bow out. Domo arigatou gozaimashita. So thank you all for joining, and anytime you have something you'd like to explore or discuss, feel free to shoot me an email. If not, we'll keep working on this. I'm going to encourage all of us to keep reminding ourselves, it's such a great instruction. I've gotten so much mileage out of it to remember, oh, take my weight out of my feet. And as soon as I do that, there's this sense of buoyancy that happens in my body. And then sometimes I notice I'm a little bit like that. I'm like, oh, take my weight out of my feet. And it also does make me smile often, and a little bit more feeling of the cheerfulness. Cheerfulness is probably right now a better word for me than joy. Joy seems so huge. But cheerful, I can kind of relate to that. Any final thoughts before we sign out?
Well, I just realized, Sensei, I've been focusing on the bubbling well point in the middle of, and I've been just letting that energy rise up through the bubbling well point. So that's actually taking the weight out of my feet. I just put them together. Like, it does that for me.
Yes, it does. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it. When we say take the weight out of the body, everyone goes, well, what do you mean? Where do you put it on? I have no idea. That's up to you. It's just the instruction. So what we do with it, people will do it different ways or different ways at different times. Some people, it goes into the space, others it bubbles up through the body. There's no right or wrong. What we're trying to do is counter that sort of, that heaviness that puts weight into our joints and in most cases makes our mind a little heavy and tight as well. And when our body is lighter, our mind can be lighter. And then I think we have more access to the mystery, as Elizabeth was pointing out, to possibilities, to, as Trungpa Rinpoche says, you can relate directly with what is happening. You can just be there without doing anything to it.
It's kind of like those, I'm sure we've all had the dreams where we're flying.
Mm,
How incredible that feels.
yeah.
Like if you could bring some of that into the lightness consciously. Maybe I'll try playing with that, because I have some memory of the feeling of flying. And it feels good. I mean, it did it in the dream. I don't know if everybody has the same good feeling, but I really love flying. And
Yes.
and there's a great sense of lightness in those dreams, the floating, and it was very freeing.
And for me too, I could see, I could look down and see
Yeah.
things, but it wasn't I was seeing with judgment. It was just like, oh, look, that's happening.
It was just wonderful. It was just, it was like a fun exploration, and you felt safe and floaty, and you could touch down when you wanted to and push off from the ground and float up again. It was beautiful. So I'll try to, now that I think of that, I'll try to bring that in and see how that does with the lightness.
I think anything we can do to lighten up. I think especially these days, there's so much heavy, and lightening up, I think it gives our mind, it opens our mind. We have access to things, seeing the world ways that we do. It's certainly that I don't, when I'm kind of heavy, I see the world in a particular way, based a lot on my past and my culture. And when I can lighten up, it opens doorways that are not totally based on my past or culture. Well, thank you all so much. It's nice to see all of you, Elizabeth. I'm so glad that you're there. I haven't seen you for a while, so welcome back. Greg, thank you for hosting as always.
Mm-hmm.
I'm around next week, so if you have any thoughts of something you'd like to explore or explore further, feel free to shoot me. And otherwise, I'll just keep plugging away at coming up with stuff.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you, Sensei. Good to see everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.